How dare you?
Mr. Lopez.
Mr. Baker.
How you doing, my man?
How's it going?
I'm good.
Doing good. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm fresh from a really good stream with Bill Bean over on the Studio A. And for anyone who was watching the show with Bill, what we're going to be doing from now on is we're probably going to be doing the show live on the main Kev Baker show channel, the bigger one. So we get the bigger audience. And then what we'll do after that is I'll upload that show to Bill's YouTube channel, which I'll be able to give you the details out for during the week. And that way we can be a little bit less algorithm friendly, Scott, and get into stuff that maybe we want. Maybe I'm going down the Metaker road. You know, fire and forget, dude. You know, you do the live stream and it's unlisted and it's gone forever. It may reappear on other platforms, on other sites, but I think it might be the way to protect the channel and have some longevity. If we're to continue uncovering the stones and looking in the places we tend to look, Scott, we need to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And Mr. Metaker, I would be a fool not to look at what he does, Scott.
I was about to say, you know, Metaker figured something out that I think it works, you know. And let's be honest, you know, you do a live stream. I mean, how many people actually go back and rewatch it? I mean,
there's a few hardcore. There's a few, but like you say, yeah, but not many.
Yeah, you know, I mean, unless some people maybe missed it or something, then they want to go back. But in general, most of your audience is there viewing it live anyways, so there's almost kind of no point in keeping it up. So, like you said, fire and forget, and then you know, that definitely helps dodge the algorithm bullet as well. So,
and talking about firing and forgetting, I was meant to join you last night after I got finished with Nano Girl. And, well, it all went horribly wrong because we were going to hook up. We were going to get some gaming done. So I got off with Nano, and I'd been telling people, I'm getting ready for a crash soon. I can feel it. It's in the works. I gets off of here, I goes, makes my coffee, thinks to myself, I'll sit down, I'll have myself a little herbal remedy, and then I'll get back to it. And, yeah, I got back to it. Daylight today. Half of said herbal remedy. Luckily, didn't set the house on fire because obviously that had knocked me out, Scott. And I woke up in the same position I sat down in the night before. And then I thought, well, I'll go for another hour. Darkness by the time I resurface. So I've caught up, I think, my friend. I'm raring to go for another 2-3 weeks before I do it all again.
It was time for the body. The body was telling you, you know what? It's time to go into rest mode for a while. You know, maybe I call those episodes whenever I have them too, because I have, you know, really severe insomnia, and sometimes you go days without sleeping, and then all of a sudden the body crashes and you go out for almost 24 hours. You know
the final nail in the coffin was Scrabble with my mum. Yeah, it's a nightly ritual. It's a ceremonial playing of the Scrabble, and she beat me once in a while. She beats me. But I think that obviously had put me in a bad mindset, Scott, and I blame my mum entirely. So I apologise to you, but we blame Pearly, and I know Scott holds you fully responsible. I know you're watching right now, Mum, so just so you know.
I'm sure the herbal remedy had nothing to do with said sleep as well.
No, nothing at all. No, wouldn't have contributed to it at all, Scott. No. My eyeballs don't look like dogs' balls in the snow tonight because of the same herbal rep. Nope, that's all speculation.
It was interesting, though, because I kind of I ran into a cousin of mine who I hadn't spoken to in years, and he plays Call of Duty, and I play Call of Duty as well, and so we kind of hooked up for a bit of a family reunion over Call of Duty, and so that was kind of interesting, and we're going to try to get my other cousin, my younger cousin. He's in the Marines. but he plays Call of Duty as well. So we're gonna have kind of like a family reunion slaughter fest, I guess you could say, in the war zone. So
Is he
uh,
at home, Scott? Is he deployed? You know, how long's he? I love the whole military thing. I mean, the Marines, dang, dude.
he is home now, I believe, and he was deployed out in South America. I believe he was in Colombia doing jungle uh, jungle warfare training and whatnot, and he received, I believe, some commendation for his jungle training or whatever they do out there. So yeah, it's pretty interesting because he was just a 14-year-old kid last time I saw him. Now he's a Marine. So
He's a
crazy.
he's a
I'm
real man now, Scotty
hey,
boy.
the real man now.
Big time, dude. Big time. But it's funny that, reconnecting with family over Call of Duty, things like that. You know, at a time when we're all separated, yet we're having family reunions. In some ways, that's kind of cool. And Call of Duty is something we're going to come back to later on in the show, Scott, isn't it? Because myself and Scott, we've
Uh,
found out what. Oh, thank you, Justa.
Hello all you cool people. Good to see y'all. So let's sit back, relax and smoke a fatty. Let's smoke this place out.
Nice.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
Nice. And I've put a post over on the main channel to tell people that we're over here. So maybe we'll get people jumping in that way. It was somebody had recommended that in the chat the other day because not everyone knows about the backup channel. So I've tried that just now. We'll see if we get any more people coming along here. But yeah, Scott, we're going to get into Call of Duty towards the end of the show, ain't we? Because we figured out what Donald Trump's been up to while he's been in lockdown.
dude, that what you showed me was absolutely hilarious. I think the people are going to get a kick out of that. It was just
Yes, indeed. I did promise them, Scott. You know, myself and Bill, we were getting into some of the real news out there, and it can get a bit heavy, a bit doomy, gloomy. But I promised people, I said, I promise you, by the end of the next stream, we'll all be laughing, and we'll be engaging our coping mechanisms by the end of this. Trust me, we really will. I honestly didn't think I would be able to find anything on a par with the kind of loonicorns out there. It's not quite as good as that. However, it'll keep us going until the next madness comes along. And talking of madness, Scotty Lopez, you know, he's on the vibe. He didn't know what myself and Bill were talking about tonight, but he comes onto the stream and he says, Kev, you need to check out the crazy murder hornets. Scott, talk to me, man. Because you, my friend, well, let me just show the audience this here. That emoji face, it's not actually a real emoji. That's because that's the bit emoji version of Scott. Because when Scott sees something like a murder hornet, in fact, if he sees any kind of flying insect, that's the exact face right there that Scott pulls. He's not Patrick out of SpongeBob. He's got that scaredy face on, don't you, Scott? Not good. Not good, my friend. Not good.
Oh God, dude. So, like, I have a few phobias, right? And one is clowns, and I've made that clear on the show many times. But I also have a phobia of flying, stinging insects, and mostly hornets and wasps. I absolutely hate them. Like, it just when there's one in close proximity or whatever, I immediately like freeze up in fear, and it's just like you know. And so when I came across this story, I was like, oh my God, no, 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 no. Why? I would rather deal with the koof than this, honestly. Um, because I know about these things. I've looked them up before. Like I have a morbid curiosity with the things that I fear. So, like if
I
I
think that's good. I mean, if there's something out there that does cause you like problems, then I think it's good to kind of
Yeah,
know your
I
enemy.
end up doing. I end up doing research on them and on things and stuff like that. And so, uh, it's like my fascination with tornadoes and weather. I used to be really, really scared of storms and tornadoes and stuff, and then that kind of ended up becoming a fascination. But yeah, these Asian giant hornets, they've been found here in the U.S. Come
Mhm.
on, Asia, please quit sending us your horrific things. Can you do that? Can you just stop doing that?
You know, Bill was talking to me about how long is it going to be before the left tell us that we're being highly racist and we're discriminating against Asia just because it's the Asian murder hornet. What a name, murder hornet. This thing goes through
Oh,
bees. It goes through bees like a hot knife through butter. It's got big tentacle things that come off it like a mad crazy octopus that flies about and whoosh, gets you like that. Gets them out there, Scott, you know.
these things, dude, they're nightmare fuel. I mean, I look,
Look at
killer
that
bee.
thing, man.
I mean, killer bees are bad enough, and but at least when a bee stings you, that's it. It can only sting you once, and it's like not that big. But of course, the problem with bees is having the whole swarm get you. But these things, they're huge. They're like 2 inches long, man, and their stinger is like it can penetrate through most protective gear, like bee protective gear, and these
Like a
things have
knitting
killed.
needle, dude. It's like a knitting needle we've got.
Yeah,
Like a
these things have
chopstick.
killed people. Yeah, they've killed people in Japan. That's and I don't know, man. So they found these things in Washington State. I know you got an article pulled up here, so we
Yeah,
can kind of get.
I've got an article here. It says an invasion of Asian giant hornets became the latest 2020 worry. Not that we didn't have enough to worry about. And internet sensation as the term murder hornet began to trend over the weekend. I'm not surprised with a name like that. The first spotting of the 2-inch Asian giant, let's call it a mutant giant hornet or Vespa mandarinia, was verified in the United States in December, according to the Washington State Agriculture Department. And the insect does not generally target people or pets, but is a deadly threat to at-risk honeybee hives. Now, Scott, honeybee hives are already, it says they're already at risk. I mean, they're already struggling, dude.
I know this is just another thing that's going to compound this whole problem that we're having with the honeybee,
Yep.
with the bee population, and now you have this evasive species of hornet that has entered the scene, and its whole thing is invading beehives and going on killing sprees. I mean, it literally, like, I think it's like 3 or 4 hornets will enter a beehive and they just go into like complete kill mode, and they decapitate the bees, and I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just uh I don't like seeing this stuff. I don't like the. It's going to be interesting because I wonder how this is going to play out with other wasp and hornet populations that are like native here to the U.S. Are
Don't
we going to have like a
discriminate.
hornet battle?
As Algo says, hashtag giant hornet lives matter. Yep,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm,
But you're right,
yeah,
Scott. I mean, the story I was reading earlier on with Bill, the farmer that had first kind of detected this, I mean, he talked about how his beehive was just devastated, dude. Devastated. And then he started finding out about their mandrills or whatever they call them, and just whipping about and cutting things in half. And it says here that giant hornets of this species apparently enter a slaughter phase, during which they decapitate honeybees and destroy entire hives in the span of a few hours, according to the department. And although this species was first spotted months ago, the term murder hornet circulated on Twitter over the weekend after a New York Times report on Saturday on efforts to stop the species from annihilating honeybees. Dang, dude, dang. And of course that's going on, Scott, as we've still got this happening as well. The locust swarms are over now in Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. So, yeah, it's ongoing, man.
A lot of craziness going on with the insect population, indeed, and yeah, they really need to get these hornets under control and try and eradicate them as quickly as possible. Just first of all, because I don't like them, and I don't want to see.
If for no
Yeah,
other reason, because Scott wants
Yeah.
you on the case, get this sorted right now.
Get this shit handled,
Yeah.
please. I don't want to find these things flying around in Kansas. It's bad enough that we have to deal with yellow jackets. That's what I wonder. Like, how are these other kind of wasp and hornet species going to deal with like another sort of competitor in town? Hopefully, they go to war with each other. I know that swarms of yellow jackets aren't no joke. And even though these things may be giant Asian hornets, I don't know if they could handle a hive of yellow jackets, because those things are crazy. But yeah.
Now, the yellow jackets are not to be mistaken with the protesters that were in Paris, right? We're not.
Yeah. No, not those yellow jackets.
I'm getting confused now, you see. I'm getting confused. I'm easily confused, Scott. You should know that by now. But what if I was to tell you, Mr. Lopez, what if I was to tell you that when it comes to flying beasties, hornets, even the murder variety, they might be absolutely nothing compared to what I'm going to show you next. Oh, yes, indeed. Because, Scott, as somebody who has actually thrown this out on the show, not once, but a couple of times, what if I was to tell you that the locusts and the murder hornets are paving the way? It's like when you've got a military force, right? You kind of soften up the target before you send in the main force. So the hornets and everything else are kind of preparing for something far, far greater to swoop in, Scotty boy. What if we're dealing with pterodactyls sometime soon? Oh, come on. Now, Anne in the background, all I heard there was, she's one of these people that doesn't believe pterodactyls are still alive, Scott.
Come on, Anne.
You know
Don't
what?
shoot down Woo.
She's only worried because when it comes to hornets, she's done the math. 2-inch hornet, big shoe. Pterodactyl, 2 meters, small shoe. Big problem. You know?
Look, my hatred of hornets and wasps is so deep, I would rather deal with pterodactyls. Just saying.
At this point, could it get any more bizarre anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
So this comes from.
So
Yeah, you spoke about this before, Scott. I mean, remind the audience. I mean, you've kind of said, why not?
Yeah, why not? Like, really? I mean, we're already talking about the phasing in of timelines and dimensions and portals and vortexes and things like that. And who's to say that, maybe a rogue pterodactyl or two hasn't blipped in and blipped out? I don't think I'll go as far as to saying that they've always survived and that we just haven't come across them. I think it's more like timeline-ish kind of thing that we're talking about here. Like, you're right there, Kev. I see you dodging.
I thought there was a shoe incoming, man. I heard something.
Fire. Fire.
It's either a hornet or a shoe. Either way, I'm done for, big man.
So, like we talk about the missing 411 stuff and all the weird things that's going on out in like these remote areas of the forest and national parks and all of that. And then we talk about kind of like these natural energetic vortexes that could exist. Um, is it possible that there's like areas in the forest or areas, in these locations where maybe you have like a timeline bleed through or something where you have like a portal that kind of opens up or a vortex, and then one of these pterodactyls from way back in the I don't know, was it the Jurassic or Cretaceous period? Wherever time they're from, it could have been just flying around, and all of a sudden just whoop flies through a portal, and it ends up in our timeline. You just get these rogue incidents like that, and I wonder if that's the case with a lot of cryptid sort of sightings. Are we looking at old species that maybe once existed on the planet, and they may have just accidentally drifted off into one of these natural vortexes and popped up in our timeline, and that's why it's so rare for us to see them, because I mean, what are the odds of just accidentally falling into a portal or coming across one of these? So it's just kind of like one of these random events, but
I'm with
I don't
you.
know.
I'm with you. If we're open to, and we are, to the Bigfoot, interdimensional, can't quite explain that. Chupacabra comes and goes, can't quite explain that. And why not? I often talk about one of the theories for the Loch Ness monster being a plesiosaur, and we're going to get into that in a moment. Why not? And I do think, we talk about timelines as well, Scott, a lot, especially recently. And I would imagine all of these times that they're still playing out, however that all works, in the stacking of dimensions, or whether they're laterally lined up. I don't know, but I would imagine that then, if that is still ongoing in our timeline, somewhere else out there in the ether, the Akashic records, call it what you will, then why not? Why not? And even then, if we were to come across something like that flying, I wonder how many of us would actually, our brains would register it, or if it would just be too out of place that we might just not see anything at all and just not manifest it in our mind, or maybe we'll recognize it as something else because we just don't want to go there. Can't be, right? How could it be one of those things? Maybe to the point where we just wouldn't even, some of us just wouldn't be open enough. We wouldn't have an open enough mind to kind of register what we're seeing because it'd be too uncomfortable to the brain. Ooh, me no likey, that's way too out of place. You ain't seen nothing there, Chief. No rendering that. Fly on, pterodactyl. Fly on.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know about the whole undiscovered species aspect of it, or because I think that we would have found bone remains, or some at least a carcass or something, within this period of time that we've been talking about it. You know what I mean? It's like the Bigfoot thing, right? I mean, where's the bodies? Where's the bones? And like I said, I mean, maybe if you had one that kind of blipped in on accident, um, it's going to be a lot harder to maybe find its remains, um, as opposed to like a bunch of them that are obviously reproducing if they were, doing that. So I don't know. I'm open to any idea. Because hell, we're just speculating. But
And Scott, with I mean, I don't know if there's ever been any viable kind of DNA ever retrieved from fossils. I don't even know if that's possible, to be honest with you. But I imagine if they somehow had the gene sequence for one of these things. I mean, we're living in a time of science where Jurassic Park, it could be a thing. It's not impossible. And I get the conditions on Earth now, Scotty. They're not the same as when the dinosaurs were about. The gravity's probably different, heat, moisture, light, everything's probably an alien world compared to what it was during that Jurassic age. But again, does it mean they can't appear in our time? Hey, we could make them ourselves, brother.
Exactly. So I mean, it'd be interesting. What is Mr. Nick Redfern over at the Mysterious Universe? what does he have to say about this? This ought to be interesting.
Legend of a man. Legend.
Yes.
If I was in Buckingham, it would be Sir Nick Redfern. Lord, yes, Keeper of the Woo, I'm telling you. Just a few days ago, I was chatting with a friend in the field of cryptozoology about one of the most controversial and weird aspects of the subject, namely claims of still living pterodactyls. Certainly, there's no shortage of such claims. Here's one, and here's another, and I'll open one of these up. See here, bizarre living pterosaur sightings in the UK, and that's from 2019. And there's another one. It comes from, it'll be the Mysterious Universe. Oh no, are pterodactyl sightings real? And that comes from June 2018. We maybe get to that in a moment, but let's see what Nick's got to say. We come back here. So I could go on and on. Now, trying to rationalise such cases is not easy. In fact, it's pretty much impossible. With that said, I thought I would share with you one example that I investigated years ago on the fringes of Catarrhea, Caderata, Jimenez.
Let's see. Hold on. Catarrhata, something like that. Catarrhata. Yeah, even I'm having.
Yep, you're my Mexican translator, right? And that's Nuevo Leon, Mexico. I'll do.
Catarrhata.
Catarrhata. Yeah, I almost had it. The origins of which dates back to the 17th century. Now, it was there with a certain TV company to make a documentary on monsters, or he was there, sorry. Initially, the story going around, and that we were there to investigate, was that a chupacabra was on the loose. There were the usual unlikely stories of farm animals drained of blood. And this time, however, there was something significantly different. The description of a large, beaked, winged monster that was presumed to have been the culprit behind all the bloody carnage. Now, although the claim was it was a chupacabra, to me it hardly sounded like one. It seemed much more like a pterodactyl. Now, the production company knew the case was valid, they said, because they had found a brief story about it on the internet. As if that somehow legitimised it 100% certainty. In light of this, I assumed I'd be on site to interview the farmer whose animals got attacked, and to check out the scene, and to offer my thoughts. Not so. Things that turned out to be very different. Try as they might, the team couldn't find the ranch. At all. So it was time for a bit of improvisation, which I refused to do. The atmosphere got tense when I said I wouldn't pretend I was at the ranch, instead of at the completely different location they thought would make a suitable replacement. Anyway, we got it all sorted out to my satisfaction, and we went ahead with the filming. Our primary interviewee was a woman named Sophia, a vivacious, dark-haired woman, about 35 years old, and she had a sighting of a huge winged beast back in 2007. So as I spoke with Sophia, she told me the part of Monterey in which she lived was overlooked by the huge Cerro de las Mitras mountain. Now, as a hiker, Sophia loved to spend time walking its slopes, and she said, too, that there had been a number of disappearances of farm animals in the area. No corpses were ever located. No body parts were found strewn around the neighbourhood, and there was no telltale pools of blood anywhere. Now, the animals, which included chickens and goats, Popeye better watch his chickens, were simply gone. And Sophia, however, believed that she knew what was behind the attacks. It was a belief born out of something remarkable. She had seen the beast that she suspected was responsible for the disappearances. Look at that thing. Imagine that thing flying towards you. So on one particular Saturday morning, and at the height of the attacks, Sophia said, she was walking around the lower parts of Cerro de las Mitras when she briefly saw...
Cerro de las Mitras.
There we go. See, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, Scott's got it covered. She briefly saw something abominable in the sky. A large, leathery looking creature that appeared to be part bat and part bird. It was nowhere near a cave over you know where. It was in view for a very short time, gliding at a distance of about 300 or 400 feet before soaring away to the higher levels of the mountain. To me, it sounded very much like a classic description of a presumed long lost pterosaur. It was a flying reptile that lived in the Triassic to the Cretaceous period, I think, yes,
Yep.
and which
Yes.
died out millions of years ago. It's a controversial fact, however, that Mexico, and particularly so in the region of the Texas Mexico border, has been a hotbed for sightings of such creatures for decades. And it continues to be a hotbed too. Now, before we continue, Scott, what on earth's name is it about Mexico, man? I mean, it's for me. We've laughed and we've joked about Scotland and Mexico, but when it comes to the woo as well, I mean, Mexico's got umpteen. There's mass sightings that go on. You've got these pterodactyls. You got the chupacabras. I mean, it's steeped in it, man.
It's because, well, what I think is, well, first of all, we're talking about the desert Southwest, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California, then areas of northern Mexico. I mean, that is extremely remote, arid geography out there. And I mean, there are just massive areas of like nothing. I mean, it's very inhospitable in a lot of um, places out there, and so there's basically a lot of untouched wilderness, I guess you could say. I mean, why do you think the military likes hiding things out in the Southwest? In the desert. There's not much human activity in these areas, and so it's almost like a lot of these areas we talk about up in the Pacific Northwest, just these massive areas of forest that nobody has been in, and we really don't know what's out there. So the possibility of species and creatures that humans haven't came across or very rarely come across living out there, I mean, that is a possibility. Like I said, that's why I keep my mind open to that. Of course, because I tend to lean towards the woo a lot. I like the whole vortex thing, but I mean, in all actuality, I mean, we really could be just dealing with a species that is just it's very rare to come across it. Maybe it lives in has a very small population, or something like that. Um, they did some DNA tests on one of these chupacabras that this woman had actually. Um, she had it a taxidermist, stuff it or whatever, preserve it, and they did a DNA test on it, and they found that it was a cross between a Mexican gray wolf, a coyote, and a wild dog. So we're talking about like a tri species, and the Mexican gray wolf, they had believed has been extinct for 80 years. What they haven't been sighted for 80 years, but obviously this thing, there's some of them still around, and maybe in order for the species to preserve itself, it's mating with other species that it's compatible with, right? So I mean, we're talking about canines here, a wolf, a coyote, um, feral dogs, and maybe because its population numbers are so low, it's having to just kind of breed outside of the species, but still keep some of its genetics alive. So I don't know, man. It's interesting, and um, this lady's account of this creature, said that it was sort of it had feathers, but it also had like a leathery look, and now you're starting to see, everybody had. I remember when I was a kid, and kind of we all grew up, looking at the pictures of dinosaurs, and they were all, reptile with scales and all of that. But they're saying now that, a lot of these dinosaurs, our sort of image of them that we always kind of conjure up is not really that accurate. They say that a lot of these dinosaurs were actually covered in feathers, much like avians are now today.
I
The
think about
chicken.
it, Scott,
It's,
like when we often hear, and we've said it ourselves, most of the things we see from NASA, it's an artist's impression, and most of our,
ex-
yeah,
that's
most of our
that's what
impressions
it
are they're drawn, and I get it.
Yeah, our impressions of the dinosaurs are what artists represent. And all off was
I'll
Share
go.
this channel so it can be as big as the main channel.
Oh, thank you so much, Algo. And yeah, I mean, I'll talk about this towards the end, but I've still not put the members on here, folks, because again, we're still in that 90-day period where you might get reactivated on the main channel. And I don't want to be seen as somebody that's taking any extra memberships or a double payment when, in case we get that back. And listen,
yeah.
you people helped me out so much along the way. We were getting to a point, weren't we, Scott, on the main channel where I'd said to you at the weekends, when we were getting the super chats and things, we would kind of split it because it was getting, over there. We could get to that stage, and hopefully we'll get back there again because Scott takes a lot of time out here as well, and I set up the stream and everything else, and that's fair enough. And I thank you as much as from the bottom of my heart, but Scotty, he's putting in his hard work as well here. It's definitely not just a one man effort, and that's why I've got great guests, great mates like Scott that can come along as well, and all of you, Algo, Justa, anyone who's chipped in here, and listen, all the members from the main channel. I actually think most of you have probably kept up your memberships via PayPal. Myself, Anne, and Kevin can never ever thank you enough for that. That there's no words for that, Scott. Do you know what I mean? People wonder why on earth do you keep going back and back? Because not the money, but we've got a relationship here. We're like a little family. And we've only got 89 here tonight. We used to get 300 over on the other channel. We'll get back to 300 on here, and probably when we get 300 on here, YouTube will say, "Oh, by the way, you're off the naughty step again." But at the end of the day, as long as people appreciate, we'll be here no matter what, regardless, no matter what antics we have to do to get around algorithms as time goes on, we'll still be here though. And just so you all know, it's very, very much appreciated. And listen, you might be somebody out there who's like me, and you've got absolutely no two brass beans to rub together. Don't think that makes you any less important here, because it really doesn't. I know myself and Scott and all the other chatters as well. Nobody rolls like that here. So again, thank you. Back to the
Teamwork, teamwork,
yep,
teamwork makes the dream work, baby. That's
exactly. But back to the description we had, Scott. That girl who was describing what she's seen, the leathery appearance to it. I can't think of any birds that we have nowadays or things that I would see flying around. I'd go, "That was a leathery looking bird. That thing, that's something out of place, man."
I'm telling you, man. It looks like, her description would probably be more of an accurate representation of what one of these pterosaurs probably really look like. Like I said, we just kind of conjure up the image of the artist representation that we've been taught over the years, and now they're, because let's be honest, all they're having to go with is bones,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else is just them speculating on what what this flesh and scales or feathers or any of the muscle structure or anything like that. They're just kind of taking a wild guess of what it would look like over the top of those bones,
On
and
that
so
on that thinking, and we'll get back to this article in a minute, but I've watched numerous programs, right? I like archaeology. I like it when they're digging up the Roman stuff over here, and from time to time you'll see a documentary and they maybe find some Stone Age or some Neolithic character, and they've got the skeleton, and they bring in the forensic person that builds it back up, and they layer the muscles. And how accurate do you really think that is, Scott? Because in reality, anytime they do it, it's a person that we've never seen before. Because we've got nothing to compare it to then, right? Because there'd be no need to do it if there was a picture of them. We wouldn't need to rebuild their face. We knew what they looked like, right? So, I mean, how accurate is that?
It does make you wonder. Like I've asked myself that question as well. I mean, I think you can get maybe a general idea because everyone's bone structure is different too. I mean, no one no one's skulls are the same, and the bone structure in the cheeks and the chin and all of that are the same. So I think they can maybe get kind of a no pun intended here, but they can kind of flesh out the general.
Nice.
They can kind of flesh out the general maybe features of a person, but I mean when it comes down to like details in the nose um and stuff like that, I don't know. So yeah, I mean I I just I I don't know, man. I think yeah, like when they reconstructed uh who was it? Was it was it Cleopatra or one of these was it Nefertiti?
They've done a few,
And
man.
yeah, like this is what she looked like, and I'm like, is it though? Like I said, I mean, the nose, your nose is just cartilage and flesh. I don't know how much of that you can actually um
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know
how do you know? I mean, how can you tell? Maybe they were a bit of a porker. Maybe they liked a couple of extra pies with their dinner. They might have had a
ah,
face that was fat like that. Or they might have been drawn in and half kind of starved looking like me. You never know.
when do you think it'll get to the point to when they can take like a genetic sample
And
and
rebuild you.
based on the genetic sample, it'll spit out an image of what the person looks like based on their genetic code. You
Isn't
know,
isn't our, you think of that, then if we, now I'm no geneticist, right? I don't know how much of a viable sample you need from somebody to get DNA, but let's think of it this way. And we'll get back to the pterodactyls, we ain't forgot. But, Scott, if you had a cell, right? Again, I'm not hot on whether the cell would have our like chromosomes and DNA in it. Let's say it did, right? So one cell. Then from that one cell, it contains all of the information that is in the whole. There's only one other thing I can think works like that, and it's a hologram. Where you can take one pixel, and that one pixel contains the whole image in it. That's how holograms work. so,
yeah,
so when you think about it that way, and again, from one hair follicle, you can get DNA off a hair follicle. So from that one follicle, you can every bit of information you need to reconstruct that thing is there.
there's an episode of Black Mirror that you need to check out, and it's I don't want to spoil it too much, but let's just say it involves this exact thing that we're talking about. This guy is collecting DNA samples. He's a coder, and he coded some kind of a virtual world. Okay. And he's collecting DNA samples from people he works with, and he's scanning them into his own sort of private version of the virtual world he created. And when he scans the DNA sample in there, they pop up in the virtual world looking, he duplicates them into this virtual world. And like I said, I don't want to go too much into what occurs, but that's kind of the premise of it, and it's
Black
like,
Mirror
oh
is
my
one of
god,
these things where I've watched random ones. Something you don't need to
yeah,
watch one after the other. I mean, but
that's what I was doing. I
it's a
just was like,
really quite a
yeah,
profound series. Charlie Skelton is it? I think's the guy behind it. Quite big in the media over here and things. I tell you what, he's got his finger on the pulse, that guy. But let's get back to
it's
the
yeah,
pterodactyls just now before
yeah.
we don't get back there. We'll have virtual pterodactyls, but before we go to the virtual pterodactyls, Prime Amazon Prime Video, whatever you want to call it, they've got a new show on there now. I'll need to dig up the name of it, Scott. But the premise of this is right that after you pass away, you then get inserted, if you've got enough money and you've bought a package, you can get inserted into a virtual reality. Like your consciousness goes into some. Now, I only watched the first 5 or 10 minutes, so I don't know the full ins and outs of it. But for the kind of topics we talk about, it feels like the kind of show that I'm going to do a show on. And I'll get the name of it before we go away today. But again, it's the kind of stuff that you would see in Black Mirror. And Black Mirror, for me, it's almost like a very modern version of the Twilight Zone.
I was about to say, yeah, it's like the Twilight Zone with a modern, like uber woo sci-fi twist to it, which is,
and
well,
it really makes you think about some of the things that are going on in the world. It really highlights them, and it does. There's one I've seen on social media. That's a really good one. Any Black Mirror episode's probably good. But anyway, pterodactyls, Baker, you digress. It says, I did wonder, and I still wonder, if such creatures might still exist against all the odds in some of the larger mountains of Mexico. I also wondered this. If the creatures were still with us, was it possible that some of them were responsible for the attacks attributed to the Chupacabra? Now, after all, I had uncovered more than a few reports of the Puerto Rican Chupacabra possessing large and leathery wings, and not at all unlike those of a pterosaur. Some might say that the suggestion the Puerto Rican Chupacabra is a pterosaur is just plain outrageous, and I totally understand that. But I'm not alone in postulating such a controversial theory. Author David Hatcher Childress asked, and you'll know him from Ancient
yeah,
Aliens. Yep, Ancient Aliens, big time. He's the guy that kind of sings when he talks. Could the
yeah.
sudden rash of Chupacabras attacks and sightings be related to the occasional rash pteranodon sightings?
Yeah, right.
Many of the aspects of the Chupacabras and living pterodons seem to match. They are both monsters and flesh eaters. Pterodons may well drink blood and gorge themselves on internal organs, which are easy to eat. Controversial? Of course. Beyond controversial? Sure. Unlikely? Yep. But at the same time, in some of the wilder parts of the world, creatures presumed to have become extinct millions of years ago might still be around and being mistaken for chupacabras. There you go, man.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. And they were talking about how they couldn't find a lot of this livestock that was they just seemed to be taken away, as if something just swooped down and then plucked them up, and I get it. There are predator birds that can do that, hawks and eagles and large birds of prey can swoop down and take
Dude,
a
there's
chicken.
pigeons in Glasgow that are like kamikaze pilots. They are, man. The pigeons in Glasgow have got attitude. They don't move when you shoot them or anything. They kind of look at you as if to say, what are you going to do about it?
I mean, that's something we have to worry about here, where I live. When we had our chickens, we had to put like a cover, a netting over the top because, hawks will swoop down and take them. I mean, that's, hawks and eagles and stuff. So, that could occur. But I mean, if you're starting to talk about like large animals like a sheep or something, or a goat that just disappears, or something swoops down and takes that, then you're talking about a much larger creature. Could we also be talking about the thunderbird? The
Ooh.
thunderbird is a large kind of, I would consider it a cryptid, I guess, a mythical creature.
And Thunderbirds are go.
Yes.
I had to. I absolutely had to. I was just thinking though.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that'd be quite funny, right? If I ever won the lottery and I got somewhere that A had a garden and B had a big gate on it, how weird or how weirded out or freaked out do you think the postman would be the first time he comes to this new gated property and he sees the beware pterodactyls in operation on the property? How weirded out do you think that cat's going to feel? Do you think for 1 minute he's going to question it? He's going to go, are there really pterodactyls in there? I'll say to him, I don't know, mate, but there could be.
Till he hears a horrific screeching sound and he's like being carried up into the air,
Maybe one of these murder hornets. Yeah, exactly. Starts giving it all. Maybe it'll start eating some Monsanto crop and it'll just turn into something out like a movie or something, man.
See, who are we to assume what they sound like? It'd probably be like, "Hello, chap. I'm Pterodactyl. I'm glad that you're perusing my premises."
They're not Asian hornets. They're very upper class English hornets that you've got visiting Kansas, Scott.
No.
They almost sound as posh and well educated as Mr. Everard. Is he the man behind the Hornets? Has Everard got a dastardly plan?
You can summon some crazy things when you've been reading those codexes and Necronomicons.
Oh, ZX81 is a way to bed, but ZX, you mean you're not staying for our dinosaur special here? Ah, damn, Scott. There was me thinking this Jurassic Fest that we were putting on would just have people flocking over to the stream, But what if Nick's right? Only it's not just chupacabras that are getting a raw deal here. Maybe, how about if we were to go and take a look at, say, something like the Loch Ness Monster? And what if I was to tell you that all of the talk in the past about it possibly being a plesiosaur, maybe aye, maybe's no. Well, there might be a new bit of information out there that might add to the mix. What do you think, Scott? Because they've just turned up the groundbreaking Spinosaurus discovery. Just made it the first known swimming dinosaur. Hey.
Wow. Well,
Now, again, we're talking artist impressions, right? So we don't know how real this is. Now, I'm not saying that this thing's got 2 humps, but it looks like it's got 2 humps. Now,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a vertical fin on its back that.
Now, if you were to see that side on, just out the water, neck just out as well, I wonder if you might mistake that for being humped.
No doubt. I mean, it's like kind of seeing the shark fin or something popping out of the water, And since it has that kind of double hump appearance to it, who knows? I
was looking at a story. It was on the Loch Ness website, and there had been a sighting recently. One of the biggest and best, in my opinion. Definitely, nobody's arguing it's definitely one of the biggest. But I really do find it compelling. We could take a look at that before we go. But on there was a series of articles, and it kind of aggregates anything on Loch Ness, And there was an idea, a kind of theory in there about dinosaurs, about the plesiosaur. and the potential that it may have got trapped in the ice. And it was talking about cryogenic freezing. And it was also
Ah,
talking about, down in Antarctica, how when they found samples in the ice, they have managed to, they've come back, although they've been in stasis, frozen, when heated up, they do. I mean, we haven't cracked it with our cryogenics, but nature has. So,
yeah, it's a natural version of cryogenics, and also we're talking about, talking about reptiles. We're talking about lizard species. You know, whenever it gets cold, they go into basically a natural sort of cryogenic hibernation state. Anyways, they don't die. They just everything in their body slows down to a point to where they appear to be dead, um, but they aren't. Like a perfect example of this is, Florida has a problem with iguanas, right? They're an invasive species down there, and areas of northern Florida actually get cold, occasionally. A lot of these frontal systems will sweep across northern Florida, and you'll get these cases of just iguanas falling out of trees and stuff. And I read a funny story. It cracked me up where uh, this guy basically collected a bunch of these iguanas that fell out of the tree. He must have thought they were dead or whatever, and he loaded them up in his car and was going to take them somewhere. I guess a big thing down there is eating iguana. I guess iguana meat's pretty tasty from what I've heard. So, hey, whatever. But maybe he was trying to collect these iguanas for something like that. But anyways, he had his car loaded with these iguanas that fell out of a tree or fell out of these trees. And well, he had the heater running in his car and it kind of warmed up. And let's just say he had an accident because there was a sudden awakening that occurred in his car that he was not prepared for. So, yeah, I guess, it is possible, some of these dinosaur species, these kind of cold-blooded, reptile species, maybe there was like an instant freezing, or they got frozen in some of these Arctic areas, and they've just been laying in stasis all these years. And when you warm them back up, or maybe a natural warming phase occurs, maybe, we talk about earth changes and stuff like that. Certain areas that haven't melted off for a long time finally melt off, and you just get a dinosaur species or something. He just kind of wakes up and he's like, "Whoa, what time is it?" It's almost like you, Kev. You went to bed
yep.
you went to bed last night, and you woke up and you're like, "Oh my God, it's been almost 24 hours." Well, with some of these dinosaurs, they wake up and like, "Oh wow, it's been 24 million years. Oops, I didn't mean to oversleep that long, but hey,
Oopsie.
oopsie."
Oopsie. Yeah. But, yeah, I'm not going to get into all this story. I mean, we get the gist of it, but it says a
Yeah.
single tale from one of the largest and most enigmatic dinosaur species looks to have solved a long-standing mystery about the extinct creatures, whether they could swim. And the discovery of a giant fossilized tail belonging to the theropod Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, that'll do, suggests that these huge predators were aquatic animals after all, using tail-propelled locomotion to swim and hunt in rivers millions of years ago. Fascinating. Fascinating. Yes.
Well, that also, it's just another, data point to add to the whole Loch Ness thing, right? I mean, if we're talking about a dinosaur species that lived in river systems as opposed to like in the ocean, then we're talking about maybe a landlocked kind of dinosaur species that lived in fresh water, and Loch Ness is a freshwater lake, right? And rivers connect to it. So maybe we're just dealing with one of these ancient dinosaur species that lived in the rivers and stuff like that.
I'm
I
just
don't know.
getting this video loaded up so people can see it and we'll take a look. And I know you can't see it on the screen yet, folks. I'm just letting it load up. There we go. Um, if we come back here, come over this way, and yeah, like I say, me and my mum, people that have lived there all our lives. Well, obviously, I've not lived there all my life. I've been away for 20 years now, but this is one of the most impressive sightings I've seen to date. If we just watch this here, this is taken from one of the webcams, and I showed people where it actually is, and I can't get rid of that. Where this is, and that's really zoomed in. It's one of the widest parts of the loch. It's maybe a mile wide at that point. So this here is a really sizable object that then slowly but surely begins to disappear.
Just kind of
Fades out.
yeah, it just kind of descends into the water.
And this guy, I mean, fair play to him. He must sit and watch these things religiously, dude. He's like he's had like 4 or 5 like major, massive sightings. You know what I mean? So fair play to him. But anyone can watch these cameras. You get it on YouTube, Loch Ness Live, and you can sit there.
Yeah, I mean, if you have cameras filming 24/7, it's just a matter of how much time do you want to put into monitoring them, and I'm sure
that there is one of the busiest parts of the loch. And Scott, you imagine, right? Throughout the world, I mean, Japanese people, for whatever reason, I don't know, but they love Loch Ness. I can imagine the ones that have been over, they're probably checking these cameras out all the time. You know, they come over and God bless them, you know, they come over for a week at a time and they hope to see it. People live there all their lives and don't get a glimpse of nothing, you know. Your luck of seeing it, luck of the draw. And whether even then, if you do see something suspicious, whether it is the monster or not, who honestly knows? But I still think it could be a dinosaur. And I still think it could be absolutely anything it wants to be. Because I'm utterly convinced that it's a shapeshifter. I know people will say, oh, Kev Bakery's like David Icke or something. No, not that kind of shape-shifting. It's a Scottish type of shape-shifting. We're a bit different. We've actually got animals that we attribute that skill to. We call them kelpies. And it just so happens they hang about water. Just saying.
See, there's your sort of unique twist of woo for Loch Ness, just like my unique twist of woo for the pterodactyl is the timeline vortexes. So hey, you know, we've got to spice it up a little bit. We've got to add that little
I tell you, Scott,
flavor.
We'll spice it right up right now, right? Because we're going to be questioning just what timeline we're on. Because people have found the most novel ways of passing the time during the lockdown. And you might wonder what some of your more favourite celebrities and politicians are up to. I know I don't. However, I can tell you, I can tell you that Donald Trump has found probably the best way to pass the entire lockdown, don't you think, Scott? Because he's taken a leaf out of our book, right? He's turned to modern warfare, hasn't he?
This video is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. You're just gonna have to just play it. Just play it.
It doesn't matter what I say. Nothing can get people ready for this.
I do voices. And other shit too. I want to thank all Americans for pulling together, for coming together, for doing what they have to do. It's been incredible. It's been inspirational. All over the world, people have found ways to cope with the current quarantine situation. I've been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and quite frankly, I'd say I'm probably up there with some of the best players. Without further ado, here is some of the gameplay I've captured this week.
You think you can just eat shrooms, like all of it, and then be cool, like if it's weed or something?
Hello, people. How do I join in on this wonderful conversation you're having? How do I join in?
Bro, shut the f*** up, hey, nigga. Trump in here?
I'm your president. You better watch your mouth before I kick your ass.
This nigga really stupid like Trump, bro. Hey, Azers, do you have a fucking YouTube channel?
Yes, it's called whitehouse.gov. We went live stream today. It was great.
They sound like Donald Trump.
We did warn people, Scott. We did warn people, right?
How dare you!
But it gets better, doesn't it? It gets better.
No. They should have movie, bro.
This nigga pretty good, bro.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna follow you. I'm not the best player in Call of Duty. I'm great at Battlefield, the best at Battlefield. Call of Duty, that's something new for me, I can tell you. Let's see what class I think I'm gonna go with. In August, this is a great class. MAGA Lord Zerif, I gotta say your clan tag is absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do it all for you.
Yeah, Trump 2020.
Look at my African American over here, people. Look at him.
I think he's British. You don't see the flag?
Of course I see the flag, Barack. It's red, white, and blue. What country has a red, white, and blue flag?
You got Puerto Rico, Australia.
Wrong. America. Okay, great. Absolutely terrific job you did there. Great aim.
Hey, you almost sound like Donald Trump.
Nice to meet you. You're a fine American, I gotta tell you.
Oh shit, it really does.
Yo, Donald, do you mind if I have a crack at it?
Sure, Barack, come here.
This nigga, bro. This nigga's funny.
So yeah, I don't want to play too much of that, guys. Absolutely epic comedy, 3.1 million views, and all deserved. Scott, like I was saying to you, the first time I watched this thing, I was nearly wetting myself listening to this. It was just hilarious. Maybe some people will get it, some people might not, but I don't know. It's just too funny, dude.
Oh, dude, it's absolutely hilarious, and it brings me back to the old days of like people trolling over voice chat on Counter-Strike, like Counter-Strike 1.6, way back in the day. I mean, for people who
that's a big game now, dude. You make big money playing Counter-Strike, eh?
Counter-Strike is still a big thing. I mean, we got Counter-Strike Go or CS:GO or whatever. But for those of you out there who are gamers or hardcore gamers, you remember the old CS 1.6 days, and you know that stuff was just, it was fun, man. And I think that's another element of like Call of Duty that I think is really fun, because you get a lot of interesting interaction in the voice chat, let's just say, and it just brings a whole new level to it. And, you know, people are coming up with creative ways of doing things, and, you know, it provides content. There's another streamer I like to watch. He does the comms voice.
You know, you had that on your... Is his name Stone Mountain? Yes, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put us back to the two cameras. I think there might be an ad on the start of this, so bear
do you know what this is? Because believe it or not, this weird...
Yes, yes. Now, yeah. Talking of ads, I'll forewarn you all now. I may have a new sponsor. I may. Watch this space. Obviously, I've had to go and do things behind the scenes to try and make up the losses. And Scott, don't be laughing. I'll tell you when we go off air. I laugh at myself, dude. Trust me.
You gotta do what you gotta do, Kev.
I can hear Popeye right now. Who do you think you are, Kevin Jones or something?
Before you continue, speaking of the poopster, he messaged me and he informed me that he is hooking up a Wi-Fi card provided by his cell phone provider, and so now he is going to have the bandwidth necessary for streaming and whatnot. So
he doesn't have to run the risk of me losing my channel every week. That's delightful, man.
Exactly.
Popeye's a wedge. He truly is. So yeah, folks, watch this space. And I don't want people calling me a shill or a sellout when it happens. But let's get back into this. I will cross that bridge when it comes to it, Scott. Let's check it out.
All right, squad, be advised. I'm going to be your commanding officer for this operation.
Now, you maybe have to put this into some context for people. Usually, and after this show, me and Scott will be playing this game, and we'll be talking like two normal human beings, you know, having a laugh. We'll maybe say, okay, there's a team over there, we'll go and get them. But it's never done. I mean, as somebody who was trained in voice procedure, Morse code, proper order communications, I mean, you would never get me acting like I was literally on the radio to somebody, right?
It's hilarious. Okay, so yes, to put it in context, you know, most people, when you're playing Call of Duty over voice chat, you're just talking as a normal person. And obviously, Stone probably has the exact same soundboard, or not, or was it audio mixer that you have? Was it the Go XLR or something like that? And you know, for those of you out in the chat, you know when Kev kind of hits his button and does the comms voice, the go to the bunker, you know. Stone has that same sort of voice effect on his mixer, and so what he's been doing is jumping into Call of Duty games and on voice chat using the comms voice
Yeah. Oh,
voice
no.
filter.
That was the wrong one. Is that? Hang on.
That's the one. Yes, if I was to broadcast like this, loud and clear, over, that's the kind of thing we're talking about, right? Scott, 3 o'clock, Scott. 60 meters. That's what
we're talking about.
So he's jumping in random games with random people, random squads, and then he's acting like he's their commanding officer, and absolute hilarity ensues. It's just so funny. It is. It really is hilarious.
Now, people in the chat were asking where Bill's show was. It was on the other channel, but it'll be on Bill's channel either later on tonight or tomorrow, because we're going to start trying to build up Bill's channel as well. So then, with that said, let's listen to probably the keenest Call of Duty player ever.
Alright, falling in line and rallying on my waypoint.
Fuck, dude, that are you gonna lead us to victory? Came from the game. Okay. You gonna lead us to victory?
That's Big 10-4 on that one. As long as you can fall in line and follow my commands.
I'm coming in, officer! That dude actually sounded like he came from the game. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
The real fight begins now. Alright, squad, wait for the green light here! Maintain position, I'm gonna be your commanding officer for this operation!
You have an arrow in your body.
Don't worry about it.
I can't hear you, what's you say?
It's gonna be hard to hear me over the plane here, but we're dropping in, Granite. Golf 3 is the DC. Stand by for the green light. Over. Gas is approaching your position. Move to the safe zone. You got the green light, squad. Eject.
Scott, why don't you play like this? I reckon it would raise my game if you got in this mode, man. We could both go full metal jacket like this, dude.
Inbound, we're half a click out. Be advised, we are not in the zone here, and we have another squad moving in. We're gonna need to make clean work. Get the loot, get going.
I swear that gives me throwbacks to being in the army, dude. I'm telling you, man.
Here, Swaggy. I need you focused in.
I'm gonna shot it!
Take evasive action! Dive! Cutting my shoot, I'm rallying with you!
See, this is at this point I'm wanting to shout contact and get under the desk. Do you know what I mean?
It's hilarious because I watched Stone Mountain's live stream, and he said that somebody from the Air Force contacted him and was giving him some Air Force lingo.
No,
to use
so he could do it properly.
Yeah. So when they're jumping from the plane in Warzone, he can do some Air Force call outs, because he's like, I need to spice it up a little bit when I'm doing my commanding officer video. So it's pretty funny, man. It is. It's good stuff. Good fun, man.
I can't even say that. I was actually coming to look at the bear story, but that caught my attention. Honey stealing, cow chasing bears 9 months on the run comes to an end. Now there's a headline you do not read every day. Although once a week in the metro you get something similar. A cheeky bear who had been on a honey stealing rampage for 9 months has been captured, bringing his campaign of naughtiness, Scott, to an abrupt end.
Recaptured? So he's a repeat offender.
Yeah, Jinky's had a sternly worded letter from his local politician warning him about social distancing in this time.
Hey, this bear better watch out, because one of these days he's gonna run into those Asian hornets.
Scott, he's that well known, he's got a name. Papillon,
Gone, huh?
who is 3, was finally caught near the town of Trione in northern Italy. Now, I tell you what, if you'd asked me where I thought this story might be set, Italy wouldn't have been my first guess.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
I don't get an Italian vibe when I think of the big bear like that.
Yeah, when I think of bears, Italy isn't the first country that comes to mind.
Spaghetti, you know, the creepy Vatican, football, never big bears. Leo Zagami, you know.
Exactly,
dude. Why couldn't they have called it Leo? So he's 3, and he was finally caught after causing havoc with a series of mischievous antics, including shaking a caravan, crossing a motorway, and chasing livestock. I think out of all the charges put against the bear, crossing a motorway is a bit harsh, right? Maybe he's just going from A to B. Wasn't his fault the motorway was in the way. He didn't put it there.
Like Mr. Bear, you did not have your permit for crossing the road.
Need to get Leo Zagami on about this one. Leo, come on, man. What's going down in Italy? I mean, come on. You uncover the Vatican, you expose it every time you're on a show, and you do really good work doing that. But you'd never told us there was bears bimbling about outside Rome.
Oh, I have a theory. This is Leo's bear.
Yeah,
Leo rode on a bear. Yeah.
If anyone has a bear, Leo might be the guy. He's got castles and stuff, dude. Leo's Zagami's a character, man. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have had him on the show a couple of times, and when you look into his family and stuff like that, I mean, he's connected.
Yeah, we've spoken to him multiple times on Everard's show, and yeah, that dude is. Woo.
He's deep, man. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talking about the Masons earlier on and things like that. I don't know how it came up in conversation, but I think, is it the P2 Lodge he was a part of or something? You know, he's probably one of the higher Masons I've had on the show. And I don't have anything, I don't have that instant repulsion against Masons or anything like that.
Yeah, it's just he's able to provide an insider's perspective into everything.
He's been in one of those more prominent lodges where more stuff gets done, as opposed to your very ground level, you know.
Also find, you know, his information interesting, you know, when he talks about how there's kind of like this battle going on within Masonry itself. You have like your good faction and your bad faction. You know, and so I think that puts a very interesting perspective on it, you know, where people like to just throw Masonry as a whole under the bus, and that's not the case. You're dealing with some kind of like upper echelon kind of power struggle at the top between those who actually are good intentioned and have good intentions with you know, people who have nefarious intentions. So yeah, Leo, awesome, dude.
Talking of Masons, I threw it out to you before the show. I think Scott's going to be joining me on Tuesday for what I think may be one of the more epic Kev Baker shows, because we are going to be joined by one of our own. And this is something I'm really going to be doing more of this week, next week, while away the lockdown hours. And Mannerus, who we've all come to love in the chat room, he's been connected to me for a long time on Facebook and things, and I've never put two and two together. Maybe he's told me before, whatever, but he's going to be coming on the show on Tuesday to talk about Oak Island. And it just so happens, Freemasons might come up in that conversation, and it just so happens that Mannerus happens to have a pretty infamous name when it comes to the whole story of Oak Island. I can tell you that Anne is absolutely livid. She's crazy mad. She likes to think of herself as the Queen of Oak Island in the house, right? But now I've listened to the book, I've watched the show, and now I've got a McInnes from Nova Scotia coming on the show.
That ought to be a very interesting broadcast.
And then on Wednesday, I don't know if you've managed to catch any of the Oak Island series. Not Oak Island, pardon me. easy mistake to make because the team that make Oak Island also make a program called The Secrets of Skinwalker. Now, that show there is mind-blowing. It's possibly got some of the most compelling UFO footage captured during the series that I've seen. You need to see it to believe it, kind of thing. I don't think there's any coincidence, though, that we're seeing that on this series on the History Channel, the same History Channel that also works with To the Stars Academy. There's a bit of disclosure happening on that channel. Make of it what you will. But Billy Joe, who we often see hanging out in the chat room, often give her a shout out. She's a supporter of the show. She's a long time listener. She's called in to speak to Bill before. She's going to join me on Wednesday. And we're going to talk about Skinwalker and a whole heap of woo. So I'm really going to bring a lot more of the listeners in. We've done a lot of shows with Andy recently as well, and I've enjoyed that.
I mean, this is just another testament to the quality, of the audience that we have. A lot of the, some of the best guests that we've had are actually people who are a fan of the show, and end up Black Templar.
Yeah. Dude, wow. If he had a book out, he should be on Ancient Aliens or something, the stuff that he's putting together, And I know there's more to come from Max. But yeah.
The level of woo and quality that is, I mentioned this the last time, I think on the last show we did, that the audience provides just as much content, and you guys are a part of it just as much as we are. So, shout out to everybody out there, man.
Exactly. And again, Scott, we can go to all of the usual characters, the people that have wrote the books, and I still will. I'll always go to these people to speak to their given subjects and get their take on how it ties in with what's going on in the news and things. But there's no way of getting those real organic kind of stories unless you bring people on and you let them have their voice. Everyone's gone and everyone goes to Mysterious Universe and they look at what Nick Redfern's putting out, and that's brilliant. And Nick, he speaks to some really unique people on his travels, people that think they may have seen a pterodactyl. And the only way that we can uncover stories like that, as good as that, as important as that, might not be about a pterodactyl, but you've all called in over the months now, we've been doing it. It's such great stuff. There's no way you could put anyone above. You can't say, oh, that's the most important call or that was the best one, because they've all been really weird and woo and special in their own right.
We've had Lothar call in with his knowledge of the Masons. We like to joke, about Lothar.
There's another one. Mammoth reminded me. And thank you, Mammoth. Mammoth's been on a number of times, but we're going to have a couple of people on from Australia who come from the originals in Australia, call them the Aboriginals, the Originals, whatever name you want to put on it. But that's going to be a really special show because some of that information, it still isn't really mainstream. I still find, when you can watch documentaries on most cultures, most things, Scott, maybe down in Australia, maybe there's more information down there, but you don't hear too much about the Aboriginal culture and their stories. You hear about the Hopi, you hear about the Native Americans and everything else, but the Aboriginal people, arguably maybe the oldest,
Yeah, that's a deep vein of information and woo and all of that I don't think has really been tapped into, or really given the proper attention that it deserves, Like you said, most...
Look at that, Scott. Read that out. Can you see that? Hang on. Pull it down. See if it gets there. There you go.
They've got permission from elders. It's going to be some good woo. Ooh. Nice. See, I mean, it's stuff like that. We're gonna get this interesting perspective on things from, um, from the natives there. From the whole thing with the Aboriginal, people is just, it fascinates me. It really, really does. And the fact that their history and their sort of um, legends and tales or whatever, I mean, that it's all been passed down orally. There's no really written, um, record of any of this stuff in it. Just it's very fascinating, and like I said, it doesn't give the attention and the credit that I think it really deserves. And like you said, people like to focus on the desert Southwest here in the U.S. The Anasazi, the Hopi, all of this.
And we're not taking away from that, Scott.
No. What I'm saying is it what makes it so good is that it complements all of that, because there's a lot of similarities. There's so much there that you can correlate and kind of go, oh my God, these data points match up. And we're supposed to be talking about civilizations that have never had contact with each other, but they're all talking about the same thing. So it's really good stuff, man. That's going to be some excellent information.
Yeah, and Mammoth, I'd been speaking. Luna had messaged me, and we'd connected on Facebook, and it's now, like I said in the chat room there, I got the belly there. When I told you to read out that message, the elders have given them permission to talk about things, and if that isn't a sign that we need to get this show on soon, I don't know what is. And thoroughly look forward to that.
I think if they were given the green light from elders, then it's like something that's meant to be. Like the information needs to be told. So, yeah.
Dude,
no doubt.
That's going to be a good one, man. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So, yeah, and somebody says, what, are you serious? 20,000-year-old unicorn skull found in Siberia?
How dare you?
Wouldn't surprise me, John. Nothing would surprise me. Honestly. So, Scotty, we're going to wrap it up now. Any other thoughts you want to throw out there to our brilliant audience?
Nah, I mean, this time of year, it's May 3rd, right? I always have to kind of do a shout out on this day because it's an anniversary of a really bad severe weather event that happened. It would be like 21 years ago now. The Moore, Oklahoma F5 tornado, and the F4 that hit Wichita, Kansas, and we were about to go into a closet because it was coming towards our house and then veered off, luckily. But it's just a day I kind of like to shout out because I knew a lot of people who were affected by it. They lost family members and stuff down in Moore. Like I said, I lived in Wichita, and Oklahoma City's just down I-35 south, so there's a lot of travel back and forth. So yeah, just it's that time of year. Luckily, where I'm at, severe weather season hasn't been that bad, but it's been pretty bad down south this year.
Touch wood, and heart goes out to them. Over here in the UK, we moan about weather, Scott. I feel sick to the stomach now when I hear people moaning about the weather we get here, because I appreciate one of my friends lives right in the eye of the storm. Pardon the pun, when you're getting ready for weather moving in, Scott, that's weather. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, knock on wood. Hey, you can't hear it because my AI is filtering it out. I'm pounding on my table right now and it's not even, but anyways, yeah.
Awesome, isn't it? That is awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. So yeah, severe weather season hasn't been so bad so far in what is typically known as Tornado Alley, but it's been bad down south this year, and there's talking about maybe middle May into late May that's going to start shifting. So shifting, and then we're going to kind of be having to deal with that here sometime soon.
Oh, dude, it's not quite that time over where you are, but may I just say to everyone out there, may the 4th be with you.
Yes. Yes. May the 4th be with you.
In one of our beautiful chatters dropping that in there. And Linda, a chat out to you. Just got your little message there. Thank you. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I like it when, sometimes when it's just me and Scotty here. I like that as much as when we've got all the guys and Popeye and everything as well. Because me and Scott, we've kind of got a pretty common thread when it comes to woo. And we like the science, we like the gaming. We're pretty much on the same page, man. Our mums, they're into the woo. There's a lot of similarities I see between my family and yours, and that Mexican-Scottish thing going on, man. It's a good blend.
Well, and there's also like Scottish crossover in my family. My mom's descended from McClures, so
I went to school with McClures. Yep.
Yeah, so
There you go.
Yeah,
McClures today, McInnes on Tuesday. Oh, Oak Island. And Mum, if you're still listening, you better tell that Mason stepdad of mine he best tune in on Tuesday. It's going to be right up his street. It's going to be his kind of woo, that show, that's for sure. Yeah, funnily enough, he's an avid watcher of Oak Island, Scott. I often joke, come on, Frank, just tell us what's down there, man. You know how to get into it,
Yeah, he's probably watching. He's like, they're digging the wrong way.
Hey, big shout out to Marty in the chat room, Lisa as well, War, Lewis, Sam, Robin, Lesu Reloaded, Russell, John, Mammoth. Oh, I'll go up a few more. Jules, Just Be Happy, Connie, Bella, Olditz. And well, who else we got there? Some mad maniac called Kev Baker Show too. Maybe this is where Dave lives. This is the home of Dave Baker.
This is the alternate Mandela timeline of the Kev Baker Show.
This is where I am, that expert on Nessie that Clyde Lewis goes to, and can I give a shout out to Clyde and the team? I know a lot of people here probably listen to the show, but with everything that's going on in the world, there's been a lot of people losing jobs and everything else going on. And Clyde, unfortunately, he's not doing the 5-hour show anymore. It's down to 3 hours. I think he's off a few of the networks that he was on. I don't know the bigger story. But as somebody who's looked up to Clyde Lewis and learnt a lot from him, and can't even believe I've been on his show a couple of times. I've had him over on this show. I just want to give a shout out to him and Ron and Wes, the team there at Ground Zero, and I hope they keep going. Don't let them get them down. They were so far up in the ratings. They were challenging like coast to coast and things like that. In fact, they were beating them a lot of the time. So again, kind of hard to hear Clyde and the team there going through some stuff, but big shout out to them.
Well, hopefully they're able to adapt and overcome, and maybe branch out and find some other avenues of getting the content out there. Maybe Clyde should kind of look into maybe a little podcasting or something on the side. I don't know if he already does that.
You can always come and hang out with Dave on the channel here.
Yes, he can always come and hang out with Dave.
Yeah, I'll just call him Charles when we come back from a break. I've got Charles Lewis here with me today. Yes. Somebody saying that Mr. Icky got a huge turnout on a stream today. I'm sure he did. I am absolutely sure he did. So then, with that said, Mr. Lopez, hopefully I will have you with me on Tuesday as we welcome one of our own, Mannerus, onto the show.
Yeah.
And I'll be back tomorrow.
And I shall possibly see you here in the war zone here in a little bit.
Maybe. We will see. I need to go and do my nightly Scrabble, even though it's 10 to 4 in the morning. I'll probably do that.
Hey, I don't want to interrupt Pearly's Scrabble. No. The war zone can wait.
Bang, you almost got me out of it there. I'm only joking, Mum. I'm only joking. So then, for another night, and I want to thank y'all for being here. Keep it real. Remember, folks, Donald Trump, he's getting better at Call of Duty. We'll check up on all his latest gaming next week here on the, I don't even know what we call this zone. But until next time,
How dare you?
A bit of that. Keep your mind open. We're out here. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Scott, don't get scared when you look at that thing. Don't do it, man.
Horrific. Absolutely horrific.
Yeah, anything that looks like that and flies, that's dangerous, man. That's got to be demonic, right?
It doesn't deserve to exist.
Yeah, that thing doesn't come from a good place. That needs to meet the bottom of Anne's shoe.